Hello everyone, you're watching The Last Word with me, Maria Shakil. The countdown to the much anticipated parliamentary debate on the Constitution has begun. Both the BJP and Congress have issued 3-line whip for all their MPs in the Lok Sabha, asking them to be present in the House on December 13th and 14th during the debate on the Constitution of India. Sources say that Rajnath Singh, Defence Minister, will start the debate in the Lok Sabha, and the BJP has lined up 12 to 15 speakers who will be sharing their views on this crucial topic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to reply on December 14th. NDA is likely to raise the issue of emergency in order to counter opposition's narrative. NDA is also likely to raise the multiple amendments that were brought by the Congress-led governments in the past to the Constitution. Looking at the opposition now, Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition, is set to start the discussion on the behalf of opposition India bloc. He is likely to raise the Save the Constitution pitch. As far as other political parties are concerned, T.R. Balu and A. Raja are likely to be the speakers from DMK, Kalyan Banerjee and Mahua Moitra from the TMC. But before we bring in the politicians, we have Saket Gokhale and Rakesh Sinha lined up for you for a quick discussion on Constitution and what it means for the politicians. But before that, what did the legal luminaries who are constitutional experts, what do they have to say on the fact that the Parliament of India will be debating Constitution? Let's take a look at that.
In a rare occurrence, Parliament is going to debate, at least they have agreed upon, a constitution debate, a debate on constitution of this country. Tell me one thing, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing?
There are certainly good features about it. See, every now and then, those persons who really matter, and when it comes to constitutional aspirations, goals, and what exactly would be the account as to what we have been able to achieve up till now, perhaps the best and, there can't be anything better than that. The body would be the Parliament.
So you think it's a good thing?
If the parliamentarians quite periodically keep on taking this account or stock-taking situation as to where exactly do we stand, how far have we come, whether there are any provisions which require any amendment, or whether any amendments which had been effected up till now, whether those amendments need any kind of fresh reading. So therefore, this kind of introspection is something which is always welcome. So if the parliamentarians wish to do that kind of introspection on the achievements on the constitutional front, then it's a very, very welcome idea. We are definitely moving towards betterment, moving towards good ideas getting inserted in the Constitution, some of the fabulous ideas getting incorporated through interpretative process, and even now amendments as well. Now, the last amendment, which is 106th Amendment, now gives the women 1/3 of these seats in Lok Sabha and in every state legislature. We are moving towards what is called inclusive ideas on every front. So therefore, that's a very, very nice idea. Our constitution has to have that kind of elasticity to accommodate these kind of amendments. Now, take for instance 73rd and 74th Amendment. We wanted to have the unified ideas so far as Panchayat Raj is concerned, at Panchayat levels, at municipal levels. So therefore, this is how we have been moving towards. We are learning from experiences, and those experiences are now getting sort of solidified in our constitutional jurisprudence. So therefore, nothing wrong in that. That's absolutely perfect.
Thank you, Justice Lalit. Thank you very much for joining NDTV.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
As someone who has witnessed several challenges to the Constitution over the years, How do you think the document has withstood these challenges, and what lessons can be learned from these experiences, sir?
If the document has failed us in any measure, however slight, let's be very clear, we have failed the document, not the document failing us. The Supreme Court doesn't run the country. The Supreme Court is not the moral guardian of Indians. Let's be very clear about that. The day the people who run our institutions, our parliaments and our legislatures, they lose all sense of constitutional morality, Indian democracy will be in serious trouble.
That's why when the Parliament will be taking up the discussion on Constitution, what do you think will be the important context? And of course, what do you think is the future of the Indian Constitution then?
First of all, I'm sorry, I don't get into a political debate because I understand very little of politics. But I do hope the people who speak on the Constitution don't have an empty booklet in their head. And they do their homework on constitutional principles. It is no use citing rhetoric of Supreme Court judgment criticizing one or the other government. All governments have at times failed in their constitutional duty. That's why we need the court. But I do hope they can all sit down and see where we are going wrong. If you can put the rhetoric aside, they need to decide important issues of moment which are bothering this country. Believe me, today appointment of judges is something which people who run parliament have to sit together and put their heads together. How do we fix this state of disrepair? And I don't use softer language. The state of disrepair in the appointment of judges. It's an important issue to be resolved. If today there is such huge pendency of cases, what use is it having a constitution if there is no rule of law? And what use is pretending to have a rule of law if a average litigant has to wait 30 years for us or 20 years to get succor from the courts? These are matters which people must decide about constitutional law. If today there are people who are deprived of their rights, how do we make sure that the legal system at the doorstep, mind you, the average Indian doesn't interact with Supreme Court, not even with High Court. The average Indian interacts with the magistrates court, with the lowest court, with the sub-judges court. How do we make sure that system works efficiently and in a user-friendly way for the common Indian? Then we would have made rule of law living reality. These are matters on which there should be no political divide.
A pleasure speaking to you, Mr. Salve. Thank you for your time. Over the weekend, or perhaps starting from Friday, we will be seeing a discussion on Constitution, and that is the reason why we have started this series in which I'm speaking to top lawyers such as you. What are your expectations from this discussion in Parliament?
Whenever a debate, for instance, in the recent times, if you had seen, we elect the parliamentarians, send them to Delhi and ensure that when the law is passed, it is debated properly. There is no use shouting in the parliament. Invariably, you would have seen one section would be shouting as shame. And as soon as it is over, the other section also shouts. What exactly is happening in parliament? I would say the parliament, if it had properly understood the scope with which these people are selected and sent there, it would be more appropriate. Unfortunately for us, I would say the parliamentarians had failed to a limited extent. Whenever the debate starts, the debate doesn't go to the logical end. People rush to the well of the parliament. They don't allow the parliament to function. How many crores of rupees are being spent each day for holding the parliamentarians together? These are matters which had to be looked into. It is only my personal wish a debate takes place as it used to be earlier in point of time, as how the people actually debated when the law is sought to be introduced. I hope as soon as possible, the good things that happened earlier in point of time is also adopted.
All right, Mr. Raghavachari, Senior Advocate of Madras High Court there, sharing his thoughts. So thank you so much, sir, for your time here on NDTV. Saket Gokhale joins us. He's a member of Parliament of the Trinamool Congress. We also have Rakesh Sinha, former MP of the BJP. Saket Gokhale, you heard from the legal eagles. There's a lot of anticipation and expectations from politicians that you all will be having a cohesive and perhaps less rhetorical discussion on Constitution.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Shakil. Good evening, Mr. Sinha. Of course, but if you look, I mean, the reason I feel very disappointed today is if you look at what has happened since the start of this week in the Rajya Sabha, at least the house that I belong to, unprecedented. It is the government which is not allowing Parliament to function. In the past, I heard some of the esteemed lawyers earlier saying that, people would go into the well and all of that. It was the opposition usually, not just in the last 10 years, but even before that. We had the great Mr. Arun Jaitley, who famously said that disruption is a legitimate tool of parliamentary debate. But today it is the government that is disrupting Parliament, which is unprecedented. It is normally believed that the government is the one who wants Parliament to function because they have bills to pass, they have legislative agendas. The government is the one whose job it is to run the Parliament. They convene the Parliament. It's their job to run it. But today, for the last, and not just today, we've been saying this is Monday, Tuesday, you suddenly have the leader of the House getting up. You suddenly have the Parliamentary Affairs Minister getting up, making, allegation, whatever agenda. My point is I don't know if that is the way to put it, where all of their members stand up and start screaming until the chair is forced to adjourn the House. That is not how things should. The government, in fact, let's say the government should be at least more mature. You're running a government, you've been running it for 10 years. How can the leader of the House not have control over his own MPs from the ruling party? The treasury benches coming and crowding and shouting. It's funny because that's what they've been blaming the opposition for. But now in desperation, the government has now, I don't know if it's the government or if the government is an opposition or the government is an opposition to itself. It just doesn't make any logical sense. We've been asking every day, let zero hour continue, let question hour, because that is the only time MPs from non-ruling parties get to raise people's issues. That is the only time they get to ask questions. We're seeing that entire period, zero hour question hour is being adjourned every day. And Parliament gets adjourned for the rest of the day. So my question
is, will the House function tomorrow for a discussion on Constitution?
And the discussion on Constitution tomorrow and day after in the Lok Sabha. I hope it will function. The Lok Sabha thankfully has been functioning in bits and spurts, but that is also because the government had certain bills that they needed to pass in the Lok Sabha. When there are bills to pass, the government makes sure that the House runs. For example, last year, they suspended 145 MPs, unprecedented, and then passed the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and the criminal laws on a voice vote with no opposition present for debating. So it is not that the government cannot run the House when they want to run it. They have run the House after suspending 145 MPs. They have passed legislation when there is no opposition in the Parliament, which is why Lok Sabha has been running because they have the Railway Amendment Bill and other bills to pass. Rajya Sabha, there is no pressing legislation to pass, so the government is happy to disrupt it. So the question is, will the government allow it to function? Of course, the Prime Minister might speak, so there is no way the government is going to interrupt him. But will this government that is organizing a discussion on the Constitution abide by the basic fundamentals of the Constitution? That's not something we've seen for 10 years.
All right. Rakesh Sinha, whether the House will function at all is the big question. Although the world will be watching the parliamentarians and of course the entire nation, because this was a discussion long awaited. The opposition wanted this discussion to happen. So did the treasury benches. The time has come. The question is, will the House function?
Before coming to that, I have a point. Gokhale raised the question that the Treasury bench disturbed the House and didn't allow to run the House. In fact, the sovereignty of a country is not encroached by only the people in uniform, but also by those people who are not in the uniform. And George Soros is one of his examples. When the linkage between, relationship between one of the persons who wants to destroy India's sovereignty and democracy, George Soros, and the leader of the largest party and former ruling party, Sonia Gandhi, has been established. And the Parliament refused to debate that. This is not a small issue. But before going to, I'm not going to discuss all these things because all these things are being discussed inside the Parliament. My question is that, if you want to discuss the debate in Parliament, the mirror is our own Parliament, and I am giving one example. 16th May 1951, there was debate on Constitution. The debate, the context of debate was the First Amendment Act. And anybody can go and read the debate. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister, Syama Prasad Mukherjee, N.G. Ranga, Pandit Bhargav, all these people debated. And the debate, the standard of debate that provided the constitutional morality. And that is also political morality. They heard each other. They used the facts and logics. N.G. Ranga called Syama Prasad Mukherjee the Indian Burke, and he called him he represented the social conservative force. And this way is the debate. But unfortunately, the opposition parties considered that by reading the preface of the preamble of the debate in the street, they are using the parliamentary debate as the street debate. That is the most unfortunate part of that. I have two important things for the debate on the Constitution. The Constitution is not something which is static. It is a dynamic thing, and it should be changed according to the context. That's why I am quoting Jawaharlal Nehru. He said on the same day, you don't make the Constitution the sacred and the sacrosanct. If you want to kill the India's Constitution, then you make it sacred and sacrosanct. Therefore, I consider that there have been a number of amendments. But the point is that ultimate sanctions come from the people, and the Parliament represents the people. This debate would provide the people the mirror of their understanding of the Constitution, their conviction for the Constitution, and their futuristic vision for the Constitution. These three things should be incorporated in any debate if you want a successful debate on the Constitution. If you want to go into the political jugglery, then nothing will be constructive, and ultimately people will be disappointed. I have two more points. One thing, just I'm ending, that the Constitution cannot be a part of the political narrative. The opposition party is using the Constitution, save the Constitution. I have a question. When the First Amendment of Constitution was brought out by the Congress party, it was a shrinking of the fundamental rights. The First Amendment of the American Constitution came, it was the expansion of the fundamental rights. So I think that there are certain people who don't believe in the Constitution. I blame the Congress party throughout its rule. It has tried to sabotage the Constitution, and now it has been shouting the emergency is the Congress party's product. The shrinking of all the fundamental rights is the Congress party's product. The encroachment of the Supreme Courts is the Judiciary the Congress party's work. So I think that opposition party must rethink, self-introspect, and then come to the constitutional debate.
Mr. Gokhale?
Sorry, I have to add something, Mr. Mead, to what my honorable and very dear friend said. I have to put in 3 points. Number one, I think if we genuinely respect the Constitution of India, and I do believe that Mr. Sinha does as well. We've had the pleasure of serving a little bit of our time together. First of all, India is a union of states. Remember that there is. Yes, it leans a bit towards a stronger central executive. India is a union of states. My state of West Bengal, the unprecedented attack on federalism that we've seen in the last 10 years, the way the center under the Narendra Modi government has tried to usurp the rights of the states, deprived us of our dues. I'm sorry, but that is not constitutional even by a long shot, number one. Which leads me to my next point, which is the BJP and the Congress have the same problem. They both think that they are the only parties that exist in this country. When Mr. Sinha uses Congress and opposition interchangeably, because they think BJP and Congress are the only two parties. It's quite a matter that their own party does not have a majority in parliament right now. They have to rely on the TDP and the JDU, but they still refuse to acknowledge the fact that there are other parties in this country. Congress does not encompass the entire opposition. Sir, we are the second largest party in the opposition. We are in the state of West Bengal. We have 29 in the Lok Sabha plus 13 in the Rajya Sabha. Whatever your disputes with the Congress might be, that's fine. But we have a view as well. And your government needs to listen to that view also. Number three, it is very interesting that my honorable friend from the BJP had to go back to 1951 under Jawaharlal Nehru to show an example of a great debate where there was consensus. It is quite a telling fact that he could not find a single instance in the last 10 years under Narendra Modi where he's managed to reach out and hold a constructive debate taking the opposition together. The fact that you have to go back to 1951 just shows how successful your government has been in building consensus over the last 10 years. Look, it's all willy-nilly and nice to talk about constitutional values and this and that and make great speeches about it. I will tell you what is going to happen. I will tell you that the BJP is going to talk about emergency when the debate happens. I'll tell you the other parties are going to talk about what has been happening in the last 10 years. There has to be intent to discuss the constitution. A government which has passed laws which a lot of times have been struck down by courts today. We've been seeing this unprecedented thing over the last few months where they're going and looking for a temple under every mosque. Today, the Supreme Court has struck it down. The fact that the Places of Worship Act is an act created by, it's an act of parliament, but the government has refused to uphold it throughout. We've had this harebrained idea of one nation, one election, which is the complete blow to federalism. You brought in that bill, your cabinet approved that bill today, and tomorrow for the next 4 days at Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you're going to sing fake glories of the constitution. See, people are intelligent. When you try to bluff people, they reduce you to 240 seats. Uske baad bhi, you're not willing to read the writing on the wall. That do not underestimate the people.
Mr. Gokhale, my question is, yes, you know, all this is in the realm of, attack and trying to counter the opposition.
It's not my question.
Similar
my question.
to
Look,
what Mr. Rakesh Sinha did. He was trying to call my question is that the entire country is looking towards the parliamentarians and they're hoping that what we used to see, good old days of good debates, very structured debates, that is what will happen when there is a discussion for 13 hours in the Lok Sabha.
See, we've had good debates. I'll tell you, Mr. Sinha himself, he's a fantastic debater. He's a fantastic speaker. It's not that it's only been in the good old days. Even as recently as the last session or last year, we've had good debates. It's not that good debates don't happen in Parliament. But to give an example of what he said earlier, I don't know anything about this George Soros business, whatever is going on. But if the government is coming and disrupting Parliament, saying someone is trying to destabilize the nation, then Bhaiya, Home Minister should resign then. Defense Minister should resign. If they can't control, if they know there is someone destabilizing the nation, you cannot act against that person, तो हम आके Parliament disrupt करेंगे. This is a government that said घर में घुस के मारेंगे. अब ये बोलते Parliament में जाके disrupt करेंगे. सरकार आपकी है. Who's stopping you from taking action? But please allow parliamentarians to raise people's issues.
Okay.
We've been deprived of funds in West Bengal, unemployment, price rise. These crucial
Rakesh
issues are not, and they're not.
You get the last word.
Not, sorry. Let me just finish. Give me 10 seconds. The government is bringing all these bogies of Videshi Haat and this, that simply because they're not comfortable discussing price rise, unemployment, deprivation of funds to states. They're not okay. Manipur, they don't want to discuss these. So this is the diversion by the government.
Okay. So it's diversion by the government, not by the opposition, Rakesh Sinha.
I don't want to indulge in such debate because people are fed up with such ideas and such indulgence. I have 2-3 points, very quick points to make here. I believe that there is a progressive deterioration of the parliamentary debate. And this is a very dangerous for democracy. And you see, I hope that this time we will debate on constitution, but we debated the functioning of the parliament. Means there is some problem. So I think when I have one example, I was a member of Rajya Sabha. The leader of opposition spoke, and the Prime Minister heard it very carefully. He noted down his points to respond. When Prime Minister started speaking, the entire opposition, including TMC, disturbed the Prime Minister's speech. This is not going to be any good thing for the parliamentary democracy. One. Second important thing is here that the parliamentarians should have a habit to study. Without studying, without self-study, you cannot be a good parliamentarian. Going to the constituency and going to library, both are important for parliamentary democracy. You see why the US Congress Senate debate is quoted, House of Lords and House of Commons debate is quoted. Why not Indian Parliament debate is quoted? We are the largest democracy of the world. The reason is there that the dialogue, discussion, and debates have deteriorated. So it is a collective responsibility to uplift it. The important thing is that in Indian democracy, it is the people whose mandate is most important. When you question the mandate, you don't acknowledge the Prime Minister, you don't acknowledge the result of the election, then democracy cannot function. Okay. You see right from 2014 to 2024, after every election, opposition questions the legitimacy of the electoral process, legitimacy of the elected government.
We get your point,
this
and what you said That it
All
is about the collective responsibility of all the parliamentarians to ensure that the parliament witnesses a solid discussion, a comprehensive discussion on constitution. Saket Gokhale, Rakesh Sinha, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.